the things you've wrote about them, especially Meghan, we've seen you, but we've heard about.
And I think that they don't know what to do other than to try and come back to Britain and rebuild themselves as some sort of members of the royal family.
A new royal book is making headlines, and not everyone agrees with what it says. Some people claim it finally reveals the hidden tensions behind palace doors. Others say it goes too far, way too far. So what's actually in this book, and why in 2026 is everyone still arguing about Meghan Markle? Stay with me, because this story is more complicated than the headlines are letting on. If you're just catching up, here's what you need to know. Meghan Markle, American actress, married into the British royal family in 2018. Then, in one of the most shocking moves in modern royal history, she and Prince Harry walked away from it all. They left, they spoke out, and the world hasn't stopped talking since. You'd think years later the conversation would die down. It hasn't. In fact, right now, a new book has pulled her straight back into the global spotlight. And this time, people are really divided. Here's where it gets interesting. A new royal biography is circulating, and it's gaining serious traction online. We're talking trending topics, split comment sections, and media outlets on both sides of the Atlantic picking it apart. Now, and this is important, the claims in this book have not been independently verified. These are the author's allegations and interpretations, not confirmed facts. But that hasn't stopped people from reacting, because some of what this book allegedly describes paints a very specific picture of what life was reportedly like for Meghan inside the royal family. And depending on who you ask, that picture either confirms everything people suspected or it's completely unfair. So, what does the book actually claim? Let's walk through it. Claim 1. According to the book, tensions within the royal family reportedly ran much deeper than the public ever saw. Behind the carefully coordinated photo ops and the rehearsed smiles, things were allegedly far more strained. We're not talking small disagreements. The book reportedly describes a fundamental clash of cultures, expectations, and personalities. But here's where it gets complicated, because tension in a royal setting isn't new. Royal biographies have described internal friction for decades. So, is this a Meghan story or just a royal family story? Claim 2. The book allegedly highlights a sharp divide between Meghan's public image and how she was reportedly perceived internally. The woman the world was watching, poised, polished, purpose-driven, was, according to these claims, viewed very differently behind closed doors. Now pause on that for a second, because that gap between public image and private perception is exactly the kind of detail that ignites people. Supporters see it as proof of a system that never accepted her. Critics see it as something else entirely. Claim 3. Perhaps the most talked about allegation involves reported behind-the-scenes disagreements over decisions, big ones. According to the book, there were allegedly significant moments where communication broke down, where things were said or not said that left lasting damage. And that's the claim people can't stop arguing about. Because if it's true, it reframes everything. If it's not, then what is this book really trying to do? Not everyone is buying it. The moment this book started making headlines, two very distinct camps formed almost instantly. On one side, Meghan's supporters pushed back hard. Their argument, this is the same pattern playing out again, a narrative designed to undermine a woman who dared to speak her truth. They point to the timing, the framing, the choice of sources, and they're asking serious questions about whose version of events is really being told here. On the other side, critics of Meghan have taken the book's claims and run with them. For them, this is validation, confirmation of what they believed all along. And the media, predictably, completely split. Some outlets covered it with skepticism, others treated the allegations like established fact. And that gap in how this story is being reported is honestly where things get most interesting. Because this isn't just a debate about Meghan Markle anymore. This is a debate about how we consume stories and who we decide to believe. So why are we still here? Why does this story keep coming back? Because it touches something bigger than one person. In 2026, the public fascination with the royal family hasn't faded, it's evolved. People aren't just curious about the crown anymore, they're questioning the institution itself, the power it holds, the narrative it protects. And Meghan Markle sits right at the center of all those questions. She's become a kind of cultural mirror. What people think about her often reveals what they think about race, about media, about women in power, about who gets to tell their own story and who doesn't. That's why a book like this doesn't just get read, it gets argued about. Because it's not really about what happened inside a palace. It's about what we believe is possible and who we trust to tell us the truth. If this is the kind of breakdown you're into, where we actually slow down, look at the layers, and separate the facts from the headlines, hit subscribe. We do this every week, and it's free. Alright, back to the big question. So, what should we actually believe? That's the uncomfortable question sitting at the center of all of this. Because here's the truth, and it's not a satisfying one. We weren't in those rooms, we didn't hear those conversations, we don't know what was said, what was meant, or what was left out. We're working with fragments, filtered through authors, editors, publicists, and algorithms. Is this book revealing something real about what allegedly happened inside the royal family? Or is it just another chapter in a years-long media narrative, one that's been shaped and reshaped so many times that the original truth is almost impossible to find? Here's what I know. Every person in this story, every person, has something to gain from how it's told, and that should make all of us just a little more careful about which version we decide to accept. Let's bring it together. There is a book. It makes serious claims, allegedly according to reports, based on the author's sources. Those claims are disputed by supporters, by commentators, by people who were reportedly there. The media is divided, the public is divided, and somewhere underneath all the noise, there is probably a much quieter, much more complicated truth. But here's what won't change. This story, the royal exit, the interviews, the books, the back and forth, it keeps finding its audience because it keeps asking questions we haven't finished answering. About loyalty, about race, about power, about what it costs to live. And in stories like this, the full truth is rarely simple. It never is. So, what do you think? Do you think books like this reveal the truth or shape it? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one, and the discussion down there is honestly sometimes better than the video itself. If you're new here, subscribe. We break down the stories everyone's talking about, and we try to actually think about them. And I'll see you in the next one.